We are in the studio, the Matt Gonzales studio, and I get the pleasure of interviewing the former president of the board and the greatest referee that I've ever known, Matt Gonzales. And Matt, it's a pleasure to be here with you on this roast for our good buddy Chris Daly.
It's good to chat with you.
My first question, Matt, is how did you handle all that action of the board? I mean, what were your thoughts, really?
I don't know how to answer that. I think it was a pretty contentious time because Willie Brown was the mayor. We'd been elected on an anti-Willie Brown kind of wave, and there's no question about it. There was a lot of insults that were being hurled around, and by and large, it's kind of like, how do you say it? It's presiding over a petty tribunal in a way. You can't overthink what it is. It's not that big of a deal.
For instance, that fight that you had asked me about, or supposed fight between Chris and Willie in Willie's office. How did you take that as president of the board? How did you interpret that?
Well, I wasn't president of the board when that happened, although I did later hear both versions, Willie Brown's version and Chris Daly's version, and quite honestly, I didn't believe either version, honestly. It's like that Kurosawa film, Rashomon or something. Something's not, I've never really felt that I got the true story there.
Well, when you were president of the board, there were several incidences where Daly told people to fuck off in public comment. What was your feeling about that?
Well, I don't want to confirm or deny that ever occurred.
Yeah.
I'd rather just leave that one alone.
Okay, all right. When he appointed Adam Werbach to the PUC as acting mayor, Chris was acting mayor. What was your feeling on that?
Well, I will tell you a story about this. It's the only time Willie Brown called me. I was president of the Board of Supervisors, and I always had a bit of a arm's length relationship with him. And he was traveling in Tibet or China, and Mayor Brown was, and he was pissed off, to say the least, to learn during his travels that Chris had done this. And his chief of staff had called me into the mayor's office to take this call from Willie Brown. And of course, I was acting like, oh, why does Willie Brown want to talk to me? And I went in there, and Willie framed it from the perspective of a member of my legislature was bringing discredit and dishonor to the Board of Supervisors. What was I going to do about it? And I thought it was very interesting, and I said, well, I don't really think it's a problem of the Board of Supervisors. He says, what do you mean? Chris Daly's one of your members, and he's done this thing. And I said, well, he did this act as a mayor. So it's really a mayor's appointment, and the board has now got to look at it and decide whether or not we're going to approve it or not. Now, I had been a major critic of this idea that you needed a supermajority to vote down an appointment. And I had been, and you had been working with me on various commissions to changing that to getting a majority approval, which gave the board a chance to be able to shoot down a mayoral pick. So it was beautiful, the irony was beautiful, this notion that here's Mayor Brown, who opposed those reforms, now had to go and get 8 votes on the board to overturn this appointment that he didn't like, and I relished that one. And it was very unusual. We were on the Rules Committee. A mayor came to the committee to urge us to vote down the Werbach appointment, and I voted with Aaron Peskin and Tom Amiano. I think Tom was absent, but the 3 of us were the ones that made it impossible for Willie to overturn it. But, and here's the other thing. I did say to Willie, I said, this wouldn't have happened if I had been the acting mayor, but alas, he had never invited me to be the acting mayor, and I was the only member of the board that had never that he had never made that overture to. And again, the irony was not lost on me, because here he was so pissed off that this had happened to him, and well, there you have it.
somehow I get the feeling that Matt Gonzales, as president of the board, was furthering the people's business of the city by using us supervisors.
Oh, I don't know about that. That's overstated.
You did a lot of good. But
Yeah.
Chris was is the subject here, and
you know, I like Chris a lot, and we were allies. But honestly, I will say this: it's not even a part of a roast. I mean, it's just the truth. Sometimes Chris, we were allies, obviously. He would get up and start arguing a point, and I would just be thinking in my head, for God's sake, shut the fuck up and sit down. I mean, you're not helping the situation. You know, so like, I'm trying to move forward a minimum wage measure, and then Chris stands up and says, we should have a maximum wage. And it's like, okay, I get the theory, but now is not the time. Or we're trying to put a Dakota toilet on a public street, and he stands up and says, what's wrong with people shooting up inside these toilets? And it's like, Chris, for God's sake, man, we're trying to actually pass legislation.
Yeah, that's right.
You know?
Well, Matt, is this an endorsement for Chris to go on for mayor, or what is this? Would you give him your endorsement?
No comment.
No comment.
I do think he's going to be a good bar tavern owner, though. It'll be a great place, and I think it'll be one of these things where, in a relatively short amount of time, people will forget. And this is a good thing. They'll forget that he was ever a member of the Board of Supervisors. They won't believe it. They'll be like, hey, the guy tending bar used to be on the Board of Supervisors. It'll just be a joke. No one will believe it. They'll see Chris Daly signs up, and nobody will believe that he ever served. That's what I think.
Well, if he opens,
I don't mean it as a bad thing, H. It's just the truth. That's how these things happen.
He's coming back.
All right. Cheers. We're done. Good.